I've just finished watching a translated Let's Play and then spending about 20 hours fumbling my own way through the second One Piece game released on the Wonderswan, Legend of the Rainbow Island. Though by no means an optimal way to experience it, that's about the best you're going to get if you're a non-Japanese speaker trying to tackle One Piece Niji no Shima Densetsu. It's an RPG released in 2001, and it's not as hostile to play for a non-native speaker as you might think. Because thankfully for me, text heavy as it may be, that text is largely just conveying a story. The mechanics and how you move through this world are a whole lot more linear than its genre may imply. Because in One Piece Legend of the Rainbow Island, you play as Diaz, the self-insert for the Japanese youth that made up this game's target audience. Day after day, Diaz moves through the monotony of life, waking up only to have his parents tell him his daily tasks and that he needs to get to work on his job in Logtown. But that all changed after a chance encounter with the Straw Hat Pirates. Our heroes and dream chasers extraordinaire, through their actions, are able to show Diaz that life needs to be seized, instead of letting it seize you. And this newfound inspiration has him joining up with the Straw Hats to chase a childhood fable of a mystical rainbow island. The path to this island is suspiciously similar to what the Straw Hats were getting up to in 2001 anyway, though it does splinter off at about the halfway point. Logtown, Reverse Mountain, and Whiskey Peak are missions 1, 2, and 3 respectively, filled with largely the same antagonists in each that the manga was. But after that it runs out of source material, and instead needs to carve its own path forward, with about half a dozen game-specific islands on the way to the titular Rainbow one. Each island consists of a few distinct screens, though they aren't traveled between freely. Once you're on a screen, you're mostly locked into that area until you've triggered whatever event or conversation opens up the path forward. Repeat this about a dozen times per island until you've progressed the story, and then you'll move on to the next. With a brief reprieve on our ship, the Going Merry, where you'll have a chance to be mentored by the Straw Hats themselves and get a pulse on next steps. It's a remarkably simple formula, one that's only labeled an RPG because of its perspective and sprite work. Level ups are automatic, there's no shops or equipment, etc. If it is an RPG, it's definitely one of the simpler ones, and I think its most transformative and out there idea is its combat. One Piece Legend of the Rainbow Island is the turn-based Beyblade game you never knew you wanted. Encounters with opponents will stick you into an arena, closed off on all sides. Characters start lined up parallel to each other, and you'd be forgiven for thinking Final Fantasy for the first few frames of every battle. Attacks all have damages and mana costs, but where they differ from JRPGs of yore is in the way each attack will dislodge an opponent from their XY coordinates and send them bouncing around the screen. If an enemy bounces into a wall, they'll ricochet off and potentially come right back to you if the angle was straight. This knowledge can be used to multiply your damage, because if an enemy makes contact with you or another ally during the bounce, you'll get a free attack of opportunity. You can also bounce into allies and knock them into opponents to deal damage. Make no mistake, despite the fact that there is no spinning, these characters are definitely tops, and that's reinforced by the indirectness that all this bouncing is occurring at. You can't move or align your characters manually. Your impact on their trajectory is achieved solely by which move you pick and which target you pick. Some attacks will have you stay in place, but most will pull you towards your opponent, and different moves will send those opponents flying in different cardinal directions and different distances. And that's where a lot of the strategy comes into play. For the first few hours, Diaz himself is lucky to do 5% of the damage a Luffy or a Zoro can, so you'll want to make sure whatever moves you make on him are not obstructing future attacks from one of your heavier hitters. And in the best case scenario, he's enabling those stronger characters with his positioning. The highest impact turns are usually the result of you pinning a character into a corner or in between two of your other characters, causing near indefinite bouncing and its resulting damage. But also be mindful that this goes both ways, and these same tactics can be abused by your opponents. It is certainly something, and I really had no idea what to expect when I first booted it up, and this still came out of left field, and it's serviceable fun. By the end I was yearning for some sort of unique arena or maybe hazards to play around, but at least there was a steady unlock of new moves achieved both by progressing through the story and swapping in different Straw Hats. It undoubtedly benefits from not having easy comparisons to benchmark it against, and that uniqueness might be one of the reasons why this one is worth taking a stab at if anything I mentioned about the combat interests you. If the combat doesn't interest you but you still want to take a peek at the moment-to-moment of this game, You could always watch the same fan-translated Let's Plays that I did. EnvyPlays is a self-proclaimed Wonderswan enthusiast, and their menu navigation guides and translated videos on the game are a wealth of information. Without an official English translation or even a fan-translated ROM, these English Let's Plays are the closest thing we have to archival of this game in a way that a non-Japanese speaker can engage. I'm sure that my dependence on their uploads will increase as I continue my adventure into Japanese-only One Piece games. Do check out Envy's socials in the description to send some love their way. You can also use those videos to experience the story and presentation, both of which can be a little mixed, but are overall fine for a 2001 Pocket game. This is the first Wonderswan color One Piece game, so the monochrome pixel art of games past is now colored pixel art, and it's spectacular when it wants to be. Rainbow Island's equivalent of cutscenes are fantastic, with characters still posing gloriously in ways that capture the style of the source material, though I don't think the same can be said about the sort of uncanny sprites you're going to be looking at in the world or combat. The original story is simple and by no means has the depth of an ocean, but it is true to One Piece's themes and tone. Diaz isn't able to pursue his dreams by the Straw Hats, there's some mystical pendants and destined lineage in there, and there's dealing with a shadowy org that's trying to squash your efforts and claim the Rainbow Island for themselves. The game has its charm and there's a quaintness to its simplicity, but if you're looking for a reason to download a Wonderswan emulator, this wouldn't be my number one choice. If you're looking to experience all that One Piece gaming has to offer, or if you're just feeling particularly emboldened by the gameplay, then you could do a whole lot worse. Sometimes you just need to let it rip.